Hello and welcome, my banana fillers. It's SJB here, and the last time I had to make a video like this, it was under very unfortunate situations. Basically, people were calling me a pedophile, a creeper, a weirdo, and a lot of other pretty bad things. So, before we even get started in this video, I do just want to say that I'd like to dispel all those rumors again and say that I am in fact not any of those things, and those were all just people being kind of really mean for no reason. I do make videos for adults, okay? I do. Or at least 13 and above, at the very least. That being said, I have to talk about some real personal issues today, involving my health and stuff like that, and I know that this is one of those weird things that's like very, very difficult for anybody to talk about, but I still feel like I have to do it, because even if this helps one person, I think it's meaningful. I know a lot of other YouTubers, they look at their subscriber count and their viewers, and they're just like, numbers. Each individual person is a number. But I really honestly think of each individual person as a person, an individual that has their own real-life issues and problems and everything, and I respect you guys so much. And if I can do anything to help you guys out, even if it causes me pain or problems or anything, I want to do it for you. So that's what this video is about. My pain, my suffering, my problems. If this helps even one person out there, this video was meaningful to me. But if you guys want to be nice anyways, because this is hard for me to talk about, please press the like button, please subscribe, and if you want to be extra juicily nice, make sure you use my creator support code, it's SJB, or use any other creator support code, because it does matter and it does affect us. Even if you don't plan on buying anything, just having the creator support code on there is really, really nice, alright? It does help us out. All right, let's get started. I just want to dive in. Again, this is my health issues, so it's hard to talk about. And I don't have a script. This is me ad-libbing, just telling you guys my story because I lived this. So you guys know that I've been struggling for a while now, and I just want to finally tell you guys the full, unadulterated story. It all started in January this year. I got COVID. I just got it. I actually got over it in about a week or so, but it was pretty rough. In February, I got really weird swollen armpits. And I still have them right now. To this day, I still have swollen armpits all the time. They're just swollen. In April, I got the stomach flu. And honestly, the stomach flu wasn't that bad. It took me like 3 days to get over it. I threw up like twice. But right after the stomach flu, I got some weird things happening to me. I got a bunch of ocular migraines in a row. Now, ocular migraines for me are basically just like a small little rainbow dot appears, and it slowly gets bigger and bigger over time until it turns into a shape of a C, and then that C just kind of expands beyond your vision. It's kind of scary, but knowing that they're going to pass in 30-45 minutes makes them a little bit better, and usually you feel kind of off and weird for the rest of the day, but like by the time you wake up the next day, they're usually pretty okay. So when it only happens once or twice a year, it's really not that bad. But anyways, for some reason I had 5 of them in a row. 5 ocular migraines in 5 days, and I ended up with a blind spot in my vision. I imagine you just like looked at the sun and you saw a gigantic green splooge in your vision. But there all the time, even when you close your eyes, I saw this green splooge. On top of this green splooge, I started having other really weird issues, like that sensitivity light that normally happens when I was getting my migraines stayed, and I started having a lot of really weird other eye issues, like after images, where, you know, you can see a light, and when you look away, sometimes you see that light, right? Imagine that, but on, like, other inanimate objects. Like, just anything you look at, trees, and flowers, and grass, and people. You can see the after images of those things when you just look away. On top of that, I saw this really weird, thing just throughout the entirety of my vision. My entire vision had, like, it was pixelated, where there was just dots everywhere, all the time. Colorful, crazy dots, reds, blues, greens, yellows. Best way I can explain it, if you know anything about Photoshop, or if you know about the noise function, you kind of just add noise over something. It's just colorful dots everywhere, just like static on a TV, right? But colored static. There were other issues, but they came later, believe it or not. But for now, this is what the major issues were. I had all of those things kind of happen all at once. So I eventually went to the emergency room after 3 days of not having my blind spot go away. And they do a couple things for me. They run my blood work, they run a CT scan, and they're like, oh, came back perfect. And the third thing they did was like, we're going to give you a migraine cocktail, Chris. This is going to help you. Okay, that sounds good. They gave me Benadryl, and they gave me something called Reglan. And Reglan is I don't know what happened with this drug, but it gave me a full-on panic attack when I've never had a panic attack in my entire life. All I remember is that I was just sitting there kind of chill with the Benadryl, like kind of a little groggy and sleepy. And once they gave me this drug, instantaneously, I went from that feeling to, oh my god, I've got to rip out my IV, I've got to run out the door, I've got to get out of here, I can't be here right now. I remember trying to chill myself up by playing Clash Royale, and after 3 seconds of like playing a game, I threw my phone on the bed and was just like, no, I can't do this right now. Started shaking my hands a little bit, and I started clicking the nurse button. I'm like, you got to stop this. And of course, the nurse was sassy. I'm like, well, you know, this is supposed to help you, right? Are you sure you want to stop it? And I'm like, yes, I want to stop this right now. And yeah, it was very, very unfortunate. That was the first panic attack I've ever had in my entire life. And I can guarantee it was from this drug. It lasted like a week, by the way, that panic and anxiety feeling. It was extreme for a long time. But anyways, that was my first terrible, terrible moment of the year, was during that entire time. Imagine just blind spots and vision issues, and you go to try to get help from somebody, and they're like, well, let's make it 10 times worse for you, Chris. Let's give you this magical, terrible panic attack. But they did say, let's go to an eye doctor, and let's go to a neurologist. I try to make an appointment with the neurologist. They're like, oh, you're 6 months out. You can't do that. I make an appointment with the eye doctor, and he's like, okay, great. We're going to get you in the next day. I talked to this guy, and he's actually very nice and very understanding, but he said, I have no idea what's wrong with you. Go see a neuro-ophthalmologist. I was like, oh, okay. I could not make an appointment with a neuro-ophthalmologist because I went to my primary care physician, and he said, I cannot send you to a neuro-ophthalmologist. You have to go to a neurologist first. So my neurologist appointment was 6 months out. That's where I was at in the middle of April. With no help, basically. I talked to my primary for a little bit, and he's like, well, you know what, you've got, I actually know what you have. And I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, you have status migrainosis. It's just a migraine that's lasting a really, really long time. And I was like, oh, okay. So I go home, and I do a bunch of research. I'm like, whoa, let's do research on status migrainosis. I started watching or listening to hundreds of podcasts on migraines, and I'm looking on them, nothing fits. This doesn't make any sense. Like, how do I make this go away? It's just not happening. In the meantime, things are getting continuously worse. I started getting weird earthquake vision, which I don't know how else to explain it, but just imagine your eyes are just kind of like looking straight ahead and just like left, right, left, right, left, right, moving back and forth very rapidly. It makes no sense, but it was happening to me. And also, I started having weird melty wall vision, where you're kind of like looking at the walls and they just sort of start melting like you are on LSD or something like that, and including kaleidoscope vision. Now, I've never taken LSD or any of those acid type drugs, but I have seen it on TV or in movies, and that is fairly similar to what I was seeing. Odd colors happening all the time, and all of these weird shapes and things that were popping out of existence. When you close your eyes, you see those extreme colors, and I also started seeing weird green dots kind of like floating in and out of existence and popping in and out, blue lights popping in and out of existence, the earthquake vision, and this weird LSD high type vision where straight lines were turning into wavy lines and all this other stuff. Dude, what is going on? So eventually I go to the doctor, and he's like, you know what you need to do, Chris? You got to start taking this thing called a beta blocker. These beta blockers are going to stop your ocular migraines. In addition to stopping your ocular migraines, they are going to help lower your blood pressure, and they're going to decrease your anxiety a little bit. And I was like, oh, this sounds kind of like a dream drug. I mean, those are 3 things that kind of affect me a little bit. I'd like to have a little less anxiety. I'd really like to not have ocular migraines. And you know what? I got slightly elevated blood pressure. It's like 130 over something. And it's like, it's going to lower that too. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do it, bro. So I start taking these drugs, and he puts me on the lowest dose you possibly can. Now this, like, last half of this video is all about me taking this drug, okay? And I want to be very clear. A lot of drugs are called medicines, but medicines often have a lot of side effects, and even prescription drugs can cause major issues for you and major side effects that you really should watch out for. And I had never taken a prescription drug before. This was one of the first times that I've taken one, and I didn't really know what to expect, but I can tell you that I made the wrong choices, and 2020 again comes into play. That hindsight problem, I had issues with this drug, and I want to tell you guys the story of the issues with this drug. So this is something called propranolol, which is a beta blocker. And what beta blockers do is they mostly block adrenaline from reaching your body in ways. So if you would normally, for example, have a big rush of adrenaline before you're going to give a speech, and it would like freak you out, give you a bunch of anxiety, it's going to block that from reaching your heart. And that's kind of cool, because then you don't have to deal with that feeling. So, unfortunately, I was taking the lowest dose you can possibly take, 10 milligrams. And he told me to take it for a week at 10 milligrams and then jump up to 20 milligrams. As soon as I jumped up to 20 milligrams, and by the way, some people take like 80 to 160, even more than that, milligrams a day. I'm taking 10 or 20. When I jump up to 20, I start passing out. I started having really weird green vision that just got really crazy and weird, and I started basically getting super dizzy and just about passing out. I never officially passed out, but so close to passing out that I'm going to call it basically passing out. And right away, I was like, dude, what should I do? I don't want to keep taking this. This is making me pass out. And he's like, got to get used to it. The side effects will wear off over time. And I'm like, okay. All right. So then I started having other weirder issues going on over time. And again, hindsight's 20/20. But during the process, don't forget that one of my biggest issues here is brain fog. I don't know how else to explain brain fog to somebody who's never had brain fog, but just imagine that whatever your IQ is, just lower it by like 20 points. Lower it by 30 points. All right? It's like everything is duller and faster, and everything just freaks you out a little more. It's just like everything is just off with your brain. You can't remember things as well as you used to. You can't do things as fast as you used to. Everything just feels off. So, anyways, I keep taking this drug, and I start having weirder issues with palpitations. Like, I'd be walking up the stairs, and I would get these crazy heart palpitations. And a palpitation is basically just an irregular heartbeat with a kind of hard, irregular heartbeat. Just boom, 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 boom. And that's what was happening to me. And I also had this weird thing where I'd be playing, like, video games, playing, like, a boss or something like that, and I would have, like, an extreme bout of like adrenaline, like intense feelings about this boss, and it was like, I've never had this before, you know. And I go to this guy, I tell him these things, and he said, A, sounds like you're out of shape because you can't go up the stairs properly. And B, I haven't played a video game in 20 something years, so I don't know what that means. And I was like, all right. I told him it wasn't normal for me, but he didn't care. And and C, you know what causes palpitations? Anxiety, Chris. You've just got anxiety. You need to get rid of the anxiety. I'm like, okay, all right. Clearly, I have issues. But eventually, these issues turned into the adrenaline issues that I was having. Turned into random bouts of adrenaline surging through my body. Now, I did not know what this feeling was. Again, because it was so rare for me, I didn't really know what was going on, because when I checked my blood pressure or my heart rate, it was completely normal. But I could feel the surges of adrenaline. It was basically just a huge, heated, weird feeling going up my spine, into my brain, into my skull, and then you just would not feel right. You would feel like something is very off, something is very wrong, all at the same time. And slowly, I realized, I think it's the drugs causing this. So I go to the doctor and I ask if I could stop. And he said, you know what, stop at any point. You're on such a low dose, it should not affect you to stop. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I stopped taking it, and I actually feel very calm for like 3 days. And on that like 4th day or so, something bad happens. Now this wears off after about 3 days. That's the main thing. So I wanted to mention that. Then on that 4th day, I did something stupid. I took a new supplement that I had never taken before, and I had a little bit of anxiety about it. I'll be honest. I had a mild bit. I was like, oh my god, like what is this going to do to me? And about a couple hours after I took the supplement, I start having. It was a legit supplement. It was actually vitamin B6 or something, vitamin B12. I'm not like making things up like, oh, I was taking drugs again or something. No, like it was vitamin B, and I take this supplement, and I have like a mild bit of anxiety about it, and all of a sudden, whoosh, I feel the adrenaline. This time around, I don't have that drug that blocks the adrenaline. So my blood pressure shoots up mega high. I'm talking over 160. My heart rate shoots up super high. I'm talking over 150, over 160. And that freaks me out. I'm like, what is going on with me? So I was like, what do I do? What do I do? How do I make this stop? How do I make this go away? So I start freaking out a little bit more about when I'm having a heart attack or something like that. And I'm like, do I need to call 911? And that just revs me up even more. I said to myself, if my heart rate ever goes up over 180, I'm going to call 911. And my heart rate went over 180. and I called 911. I went out to the ambulance. I didn't even know if I wanted an ambulance, but I went out to the ambulance, and they checked my blood pressure, and it was over 200. It was like 215 over like something. And in the meantime, with all of this, I took another pill of propranolol, because I was like, you know what propranolol does? It stops your heart from being so crazy. So I was like, oh, you know, this is the drug that's supposed to help me. So I start talking to the paramedics about this stuff, and they clearly, I don't know, it's whatever. They're trying to help be helpful, but they're like, this guy's crazy. He's having a panic attack for no reason, you know, blah blah blah. But basically, I talked them off the ledge of taking him to the ER, and yeah, I don't know. It was a weird situation because I'm literally in the ambulance. And they're like, we think we should take you to the ER, and I'm like, but can we not? And they're like, well, let's check your blood pressure one more time, see if it's going down. And it did. It was going down, and it got under 160, which is technically when they're like, I think they need to force you to like go to the ER, or something like that. And at that point, they're like, well, here, it seems to be getting better. We'll let you go. So I go to the urgent care, and or I go back to my doctor, actually, and he's like, well, you know what you need to do, Chris? Stop taking 10 milligrams. You gotta start taking 20 milligrams again, all right? Stop taking this 10 garbage. Do 20. So I don't even know if I told you guys, but I was taking 10 the entire time, like the lowest dose you could possibly take, because every time I was passing out, he would just tell, he's like, take a little less. Take 10 instead of 20. I'm like, okay. All right, so, yeah, I started taking 20, and literally within a couple days again, I started having crazy adrenaline rushes, like crazy huge. This time around, I don't feel them in my heart, but I feel them in my body. Like, I can't eat. I can't do things that I normally would do. So, I don't even know how to explain this stuff, but eventually, I decided I need to stop taking it. So I schedule a new doctor's appointment with a different doctor, because I was like, this guy he just doesn't know what's going on, man, at all. And the new doctor's like, Chris, just stop taking them cold turkey. Go off of them. So I did. I stopped taking the cold turkey, and my heart rate was, for about a week, about 140 standard. When I was sleeping, it was over 100. Over 110, over 120 sometimes. Just baseline, I was like 130. And when I would walk upstairs, it would go up to like 160. My blood pressure this entire time was in the 150s, just below the 160 emergency, go to the emergency room level of heartness. And I am just completely, unbelievably on edge, and I am getting crazy amounts of adrenaline rushes, just non-stop adrenaline. I had about 50 to 60 adrenaline rushes within a 3-day period. And this is all after I stopped taking this drug. After about 3 days, they slowly weaned off. They sort of worn off a little bit with the huge adrenaline rushes. And for the next week or so, I started having very small ones, less often. My heart started to get slightly back to normal. And after about a week or so of being off this drug, I crash. My blood pressure drops to under 100 over something. I don't remember what the bottom number was, but I just remember the top number, one I pay attention to the most. When it was over 150, now it dropped to under 100. Every time I stood up, I was getting dizzy and woozy and this stuff. And I had a lot of other issues going on. After a few days of that, keep in mind, this is all with all of my visual snow stuff still going on. And my visual snow stuff went on steroids during all of this, where, like, normally I would have that visual snow be like the small little colored dots, but this is the best way I can explain it. Imagine that you were just standing in front of a Christmas light lit house. Okay? Very bright lights, rainbow colors, all over the place. Now just imagine that you close your eyes and you can still see those Christmas lights on the house, and now you just take away the house, and you just see the Christmas lights everywhere, all at once, right in front of you. Random colors, random things. That is what my life was like when I was closing my eyes. It was absurd. It was crazy. And that was happening because, guess what? Visual snow was exacerbated by extreme amounts of anxiety, which I was getting huge amounts of adrenaline. All right. Anyways, after that, I got a vestibular migraine, the first vestibular migraine of my life. And a vestibular migraine is basically just your entire vestibular system, what balances you, gets screwed up. So every time I would tilt my head 1 degree to the right or 1 degree to the left, The entire room would spin more than the drunkest I've ever been in my entire life times like 5. Everything was just spinning. I could not do anything but look straight ahead the entire time. When I was trying to sleep, I had to lay straight back on the back, and even then, things were spinning. And my eyes would just, like, move back and forth the entire time throughout all of this nonsense. Even if I was trying to sleep, it was crazy. And it was terrible. Absolutely terrible. These were the worst weeks of my life, and not only the worst weeks of my life, they were literally hundreds of times worse than the other worst weeks of my life. They were awful. Alright, this was all happening in September. So this was not that long ago. Not that long ago. Anyways, I go to the... Oh, and then also, I forgot to tell you guys this. While I was getting my blood taken during one of these blood draws, the nurse hit either my nerve or my tendon. Nobody knows. Nobody can figure it out. And I couldn't use my left arm for approximately a month. And if I did use my left arm on accident during that time, shooting sharp pain up my left arm through my 2 index fingers all the way down. And, oh god, it was frickin' awful. After about a month or so, I was able to finally start using my arm a little bit. And now 2 months out, I can start to do it with mostly everything, but it still hurts if I try to do, like, heavy things or whatnot. Still have no idea what to do with my arm to make it better, but it is what it is. So, I am about 2 months out from stopping taking this drug, and I am still not even close to back to normal. After I had my weird vestigial migraine nonsense, I started having other weird issues, like my ears click every single time I swallow. So every single time I swallow, whether it's water or food or spit or whatever, my ears click every time I swallow. It leads to weird feelings in my ears, like itchiness and scratchiness and other stuff, and a lot of other weird issues. So now I'm dealing with visual snow, I'm dealing with these ear issues, I'm dealing with other stuff, and I'm dealing with the extreme anxiety of coming off of all of these drugs, and my life is rough. Alright, again, hopefully I'm on the up and up, hopefully this is going to get better, but right now, nobody's been able to give me answers, no doctors have been able to help me. In fact, every single time I've ever done anything medical whatsoever, it has harmed me. Thank you guys for watching, and have a super duper delicious day.